What I've learned, Dr. Dodd, is that sometimes it's not about what you know. You're very educated, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree. But I'm discovering that it's not about what you know, it's about who knows you and who likes you. So talk to me about this particular subject. Have you ever experienced being overlooked? Welcome to the Clarence Stowers Leadership Podcast, a podcast about becoming 1% better every day. And now your host, yours truly, Clarence Stowers. Hey everyone, it's Clarence E. Stowers Jr., host of the Clarence Stowers Leadership Podcast, a podcast about becoming 1% better every day. This podcast focuses on inspiring and equipping highly motivated individuals and creatives to take decisive action and level up in all areas of life while producing their best work. This week's episode, The Overlook Leader, Overlooked by Others, Handpicked by God. And what that teaches me is that there are amazing leaders, phenomenal leaders, who are crushing it every single day, but don't have the visibility of celebrity leaders. The purpose of this episode is to highlight the overlooked leader and help them build their platform while gaining visibility. What does it mean to be overlooked by others, but yet be handpicked by God? I mentioned to everyone that we had leaders who are major, who are making an impact. And although they may not have the book deals and the things that we see and how we worship a celebrity culture, they still are making a major impact for the kingdom of God. And we all know what it's like. I know I do. To be overlooked. We know what it's like to be left behind in anything. We can see friends on Facebook or on Instagram at an event and we don't see ourselves, but we see mutual friends. What I've learned, Dr. Dodd, is that sometimes it's not about what you know. You're very educated, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree, but I'm discovering that it's not about what you know, it's about who knows you and who likes you. So talk to me about this particular subject. Have you ever experienced being overlooked?
Oh, most definitely. And I would say most recently in the middle of this pandemic, right? The thing I had to even struggle with my own emotional health is watching the Bible study. When you go live, Bible study or your service, and like, man, I know I got more members, and nobody like, am I being overlooked? And then you scroll down and you see X5 Ministry. And I didn't even know Facebook could count up to 600 people at a time, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So, you like, man, is the message that, is it my preaching? Is it, what is it? For me, point fingers, what is insignificant in me instead of, all those things. But yeah, I definitely know what that feels like.
When you mention experiencing it, when you mention watching or launching a live stream, a Bible study, and seeing the numbers and then seeing numbers elsewhere, how did it make you feel?
I think that there are a couple of different emotions. One would be, I think the word would be insignificant. It would move towards anger because for me, it's like, man, we're working pretty hard. It's tough for us to even try to preached the pandemic with the camera and nobody, no feedback. I had my own little pity party, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We all know what it's like to be overlooked, and you talked a little bit about how it made you feel. So could you unpack that a little bit?
Being overlooked, a huge part of it, I think in the midst of COVID, there were so many other things that were going on. We had to pivot we ended up having to get better bandwidth at the church, new cameras. In the midst of that, pain would be, is it worth it? They see one other person listening. To be honest, there are numbers feed our ego.
Yeah, I totally get it. And you're absolutely right. You put all of that preparation into something, and then the outcome doesn't become what you want it to be. And what I've learned and what I'm learning is to detach myself from outcomes. We can do all the planning, the preparation, but outcomes are certainly out of our control. And once I've discovered that, it gave me a sense of relief and to exhale. So that helps me a lot. So I'd like to ask and pivot for a moment and get into the heart of leadership. What gives you the greatest joy in being a leader?
It is my goal that the people that are within my sphere of influence, that I'm impacting their life. God has called us to love him with all our heart, soul, and strength, and all of our neighbors. So I'm leading based upon the greatest leader that we've seen.
We talked a little bit about leadership and what it means to be overlooked, and we all know the pain of that. And you mentioned detaching yourself from the emotions that were involved. And I'm learning that only God controls outcomes. And for me personally, I've learned that if I put max effort into my planning, my preparation, and my energy levels and my attitude, then it's a win for me. But the outcomes are strictly up to God. So now that we've talked a little bit about what it means to be overlooked and how it made you feel, talk to me. What's the greatest joy of being a leader?
When I think of the greatest joy of being a leader is when, I think it was the A thing that said, I love it when a plan comes together. And so one of the greatest joys is to be able to celebrate as a team when we accomplish a goal. Another great joy of a leader is to see someone accomplish the impossible with God and with others. That person that, let's just say, went back to school after being a single mom, and the before and after school program was able to, watch the kid, and to see that person walking across the stage, met, the underdog, man. Those underdog stories of overcoming adversity to accomplish a goal. That's what brings me the greatest joy as a leader.
Glad you mentioned that, because to state a goal and then put together a team to accomplish that goal and identify the wins and then see it happen, see it manifest, and then celebrate, you're right. That's a great joy, and so glad to hear that. And seeing people become who God sees them as. There's a way we see ourselves and a way that God sees us. And when we become that and the leader watches it, man, it just makes us feel wonderful as a leader. So tell me about this. You talked about what brings you joy, and that is reaching goals and seeing people live to their maximum potential. What's your biggest pet peeve as a leader? What rubs you the wrong way?
I would say one of the key things that rubs me the wrong way is when people waste my time. But I guess the older I get, really work hard at trying to grow. But there are many people that are, I would say, way more gifted in a lot of different areas that If they just apply a little bit of that, they would achieve make a major impact. So that's another pet peeve of, wasting my time again. Man, you're making an investment in people. You want it more than they want.
Oh my God, you nailed it. Time is the only non-renewable commodity. You're absolutely right. Once it's gone, it's gone, and I feel you. And man, nothing grinds my gears more than wasting time. And you said something that really made me think. And Dr. Dodd, I'm learning, brother, that oftentimes as leaders and high capacity leaders that like to add value, as John Maxwell says, to people's lives, it's strange when we have more passion or more excited about a person's life than they are. And I've learned as a leader, sometimes you got to pull back, because if I want it more than you, then I'm setting myself up for perpetual disappointment. And we're thanking you all for listening. This conversation with Dr. Christopher Dodd and I has truly been enlightening. I'm learning some things about this dear brother that I did not know. And as you can see, major moves, making a major impact in a major way. And I'm just glad to have you on. Who made the biggest influence in your life as a leader?
Very good question. I would say the biggest impact would be my parents. One of the reasons I finished the book is because I lost my mom and my dad this past year.
My God. Sorry to hear that, my brother.
Thank you. Both my parents, they grew up through Jim and Jane Crow.
Yeah.
They sharecroppers, and they valued three things. They value God, valued education, and they valued giving back. And so that's the they nurtured me to follow God first, and then that second aspect is, like, my mom was a Chicago public school teacher for over 30 years.
Yeah.
My dad was a retired truck driver, right? But man, I didn't always get the best grades. Like I say, I went to Northern, but I came through the Chance program, and what the Chance program is, they just gave you a chance.
Oh man, love it. I love it. I love it. But that chance has paid great dividends, and we have a lot in common, because like your parents, my parents came through that same pipeline, or through that same pipeline. And thank God for your service of your mom to education, and dad hauling goods to make sure America keeps going, a solid middle class upbringing. But the values you mentioned, huge. I wrote them down. Having God in your life, pursuing education, and giving back. That grounds you. And it brings to mind that passage that says, train up a child in the way that they should go. And I see those things happening in your life. So now that we've talked a little bit about what it means to be overlooked and parents being the greatest influence, other than the Bible and, of course, your book, what other books have changed your life? I heard you mention Maxwell. So what other books are you reading that's changing your life? That one book.
Yeah. So one of the books most recently that has made a major impact on my life is the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. So I love quotes, and one of my accountability partner, which James Brooks,
Yes.
every staff meeting that I have, or I always start with a quote, and I forget the specific quote that Robin Sharma said, but I had texted him it, and he was like, "Man, that's Robin Sharma. He's a part of 5 a.m." I'm like, "What's the 5 a.m. Club?" And I began to research it, and it's been life changing for me. They're kind of three principles. So every Monday through Friday, I'm up at 5 a.m. And there are three main things that I make sure I do. I reflect, grow, and sweat. So I'm going to work out. I'm going to, in my devotion, I'm going to listen to some form of, I'm going to read the Bible, but I'm also going to watch like a motivational video on YouTube. And that first hour is dedicated to pretty much reprogramming my mind. And 5 a.m. every, Monday through Friday. But I found out that I'm up pretty early on Saturdays and Sundays too. But I'm in much better spiritual health, mental health, physical health, and even growth goals because of the 5 a.m. Club. And so I have a couple people that do it with me every day. Most of my staff here at church is a part of it. Now, our youth pastor, he say, no, he ain't getting that. But his kids are younger. He used to play professional basketball. So, yeah, so, man, he ain't falling for it, but the rest of the staff is a part of it.
And that's the 5 a.m. Club. We'll make sure that we link to it in the show notes because, again, building in that discipline gives you the opportunity to be emotionally, physically, and spiritually healthy. So that means if you are up at 5 a.m., that means you probably going to bed pretty early.
Ooh, yeah, I'm a pretty good leader from 5 a.m. till about 8:30. The church, please don't call him too much after, because I might say some crazy.
Hey, got to do what works, and it seems like, and it appears to be working in your life. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. Right now, you mentioned earlier about churches merging and the trauma that brought, the grief that brought. Would you say that merging and leading a blended congregation is your biggest challenge? If not, what's your biggest challenge right now as a leader?
I would say that my biggest challenge as a leader is really evaluating how effective am I currently at making other leaders. I think that at the top leaders in our organization, I think that we're, for the most part, on the same page. But that second tier, how to, and the first tier are people that are they're on staff, right? So they're getting a check.
Yeah.
So that gives you a little bit more. But how do I improve the volunteer army? Because that second, that's an area of weakness right now that I need to develop and get better.
I love the fact that you tied it to that second tier and making leaders making leaders. And it's art that's missing, but also that leadership development that we hear secularly is really a biblical principle. And what's surprising about Jesus's ministry is that he didn't pick leaders up front. It wasn't until 2.5 years within his leadership that he began to appoint. And therein lies that principle you mentioned. He made disciples. He got them acculturated. He got them on the same page. And from his pool of disciples, he picked leaders and appointed leaders. So stay on that path. I think that's a great path to be on. What is the one thing you wish you'd spend more time doing when you were younger?
Reading and stretching outside of my comfort zone. I fooled around a lot, man. I thought about that question today when I was driving in, and I think I spent so much time I was building my external instead of building my internal.
Unpack that.
So I was concerned about what I wore, how fly I was on the outside, what I was driving, who I was dating, and all that type of stuff. And I should have been investing more time on building the things internally, building my character. What I was reading, right? So my mom had the same. She said the United Negro College Fund would say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. She would say a mind is a terrible thing to waste, but so is my money, right? So it's gonna take you make sure you get done, right? And so, I fooled around a lot, investing on things that were external instead of building the things that were internal.
You also mentioned, and I like that because you're right. We want to project an image as opposed to being that image or being that person. And you're all right, because it takes someone who's reflected, who's processed, and who's experienced to come to the realization that there's an area of improvement. And to see that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I got a lot of that.
Of course.
With me, God is not through with me yet.
As the Japanese have a saying called kaizen, which is the art of continuous improvement, slight necessary adjustments over a period of time reap great dividends. So stay on that track. Stay on that track. Stay on that track. You're a young man, an author, a family man, a father, a husband, a pastor, a leader, a mentor, and a friend. So what's in store for the next 10 years for the Reverend Dr. Christopher Dodd?
It's a great question. I was talking to my wife, and I don't know if I read something or it was a quote that I read, but it stuck with me. And not that I want to be gone in 10 years, but I want to make sure that I leave here empty. Whatever God has put inside me, I want to leave empty. And so I don't know if that has been more of a drive since after losing my parents, but whatever God has put in me, I want to maximize that potential and leave empty. And so one of the things that I want to do is to come out with a high impact calendar.
Okay. High impact calendar.
Yeah. So Brendan Burchard has one. I've been playing around with different names. Ignite. The podcast is Friday Fuel. Advance. But I want to have more of a spiritual connotation to it. I wanted people to start their day at 5. Have some reflective questions. I think that we live in such a busy world, and I'm guilty of it myself. But man, for me, I have to schedule time to think and reflect.
Yes. So an impactful planner. I love that thought, because during our segment, I'm taking notes, and right now I'm on the full focus.
Nice.
My Michael Hyatt. And I like this planner because it keeps my ADHD in check. I can get squirrely and be all over the place, but I would love when you publish it. Man, I want to let you know that I'll be the first to be able to start implementing those concepts in my life. Now, you got to pray for your brother, because I'm not the 5 a.m. guy. I'm more of a 7 a.m. guy. But if issued the challenge, man, I'll jump in. I'll jump in and do it. I'm struggling, man. I unwind at night, and I like to watch and listen to crime podcasts and crime shows like CSI, to the thinking process. So pray for me. But issue that challenge so I can get in gear and get into that 5 a.m. club. As we get ready to wrap this thing up, what would the Reverend Dr. Christopher Dodd tell or advice? What advice would the Reverend Dr. Christopher Dodd give to his 21-year-old self?
I thought that success, what I consider success, would become a lot faster. And I didn't cost as much.
Yeah. And you mentioned success, and this has been such a rich experience that, man, you've given me ideas and subjects that I want to tackle. And as men, we tend to measure our success either through external measures or things that are visible. And I just want to encourage you, as someone has encouraged me, to know that when we think about success, we think about it in its natural state. It's steady progress towards a stated goal. So the fact that we got up today and did this interview and we made progress, brother, today we are successful men. The fact that you woke up this morning and you are going to do the things that's required of as a man of God, a husband, a father, steady progress towards a stated goal puts us or makes us successful each and every day. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to have a conversation about leadership, conversation about what it means to be overlooked. So tell me this, how can people purchase your book?
Sure. The easiest way is to go to drchrisdodd.com. That's the website that was created, and just log on, and however you want your payment method, I think PayPal, all those things are up there. But that's the easiest way. You can also go to Amazon, things, Apple. It's on all of those platforms.
That's awesome. And we'll have a link in the show notes so people can click the hyperlink, go there and purchase as well. And that makes me excited. What a phenomenal episode. And my hope is that you heard something inspiring, something creative, something that helped you push the pause button and reflect. You've been listening to the Clarence Stowers Leadership Podcast, and I would like if you would take time to subscribe to our podcast. And if you found value in what we're doing, please consider leaving a review. Please consider leaving a review. It helps the podcast greatly. As we continue our segment looking at the overlooked leader, overlooked by others, but handpicked by God, I'm excited for our guest next week, Bishop Thomas Arthur Clark IV, born on August the 9th in Indianapolis, Indiana, to Bishop Thomas A. Clark Jr. and Elder Patricia Clark. And he's currently the proud pastor of World Deliverance Christian Center of Bellwood, Illinois. And he's doing a phenomenal work, making a significant impact in the kingdom of God. Here's what's in store for next week's podcast. We've all had those moments, Bishop, where we jump on social media and we see people living life but not coming to church. We see people going to events, having events and not inviting us, and we know what it's like to kind of be slighted. But regarding leadership, there have been several times, because I didn't play the good old boy game, that I've been overlooked as a leader, and we know what it's like to be left behind. So Bishop, tell us about a time you experienced being overlooked, and how did it make you feel?
Wow. And you teed that up very well, pastors, what you're just saying, just overlook, knowing that you have something, make the first person, me, have something that I can contribute. I remember an instance years ago. I was at a conference, and the speaker, one of the headline speakers, as you mentioned, the celebrity headline speakers, had shared the word of the Lord the night before, and really was a blessing. I was blessed by the word. The next morning, we were staying in the same hotel. The next morning, I go down for breakfast. They have a breakfast buffet laid out, and I have my plate. I'm walking back to my seat. He's sitting there, and his assistant, his armor bearer, is getting his plate. And I, not trying to interrupt his breakfast, I respect people's personal space. Not trying to sit down with him and say, can I eat with you? Just wanted to say thank you for what you shared last night.
You've been listening to the Clarence Stowers Leadership Podcast. Join us next time for more insights on becoming 1% better each day and leveling up in all areas of life.